to Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles, with your boy, Jeff Charles. I'm glad to be here with you today. And I've just got a little something to talk about. I thought it was pretty interesting. I wrote an article about this earlier, about something that Adam Kinzinger said. I know he's pretty unhappy right now, after his BFF just lost her race in Wyoming. I'm talking about Representative Liz Cheney. But before I get into all of that, I want to remind you to like this and to share this and to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new episode. And also, if you're listening to this on a podcast app, please give me a 5-star rating. That helps me with the algorithm. I need that algorithmic love. And leave me a review, just a couple sentences telling people why you love this podcast just so much. You just can't get enough. I appreciate all of it. Now, let's just go ahead and get into it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still laughing at this. I thought it was hilarious. So, Representative Adam Kinzinger, he was on MSNBC, of course, and he was talking about, I'll just let you guess what he was talking about. Come on, you know exactly what he was talking about. He doesn't talk about anything else. Again, just like Liz Cheney, he was talking about Trump. And he was on Alex Wagner's show. And she was bringing up Trump and, how people love Trump and how Trump supporters are just so gung-ho about the orange man, what is bad. And they basically did, it was just basically a bitch fest about President Trump, honestly, pardon my French. But it was pretty awful. And, these people are so, it's like their entire political life is based on Trump. That's why Liz Cheney lost, by the way. Because she wasn't advocating for solutions to the inflation problem, to the issues that people actually care about. All she wanted to talk about was Trump, and she still hasn't learned her lesson. And neither is Kinzinger. Now he isn't seeking re-election, so I mean, obviously he knows he would lose his seat anyway. But there was something that I thought they brought up an interesting point, even though it was infused with TDS, and basically. Kinzinger and Wagner were complaining about Trump's popularity, and Wagner actually brought up some of the letters that family members of Kinzinger wrote to him, which I actually thought this was pretty sad that they did this. And Kinzinger is still a human being, but I guess 11 family members signed this letter to him, and I'll be playing the clip in a second. But they're pretty much scolding him for doing what he did with Trump, voting for impeachment, and. And I understand being upset about that. I don't think it should be something that tears families apart. I don't think that politics is really worth that. But I mean, that's the times that we're living in right now. We see a lot of this on the left too. And basically, what happened here, and you're going to see this. Wagner asked him about the letters, it was just one letter, and about his take on the whole thing. And the answer that he gives is very interesting because he repeats a claim that a lot of people make about Trump supporters that, no, they're all in a cult and, they excuse everything that he does. And, and some of those criticisms are valid, although they're not exclusive to Trump supporters. And I'll get to that in a second too. But you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and play the exchange and then I'll kind of unpack it a little bit.
You shared, I believe, a letter right after you called for Trump to be removed from office under the 25th Amendment. 11 members of your family sent you this letter. I'll just quote some choice lines. Adam, oh my, what a disappointment you are to us and to God. We were once so proud of your accomplishments. Instead, you go against your Christian principles and join the devil's army, the Democrats and the fake news media. Adam, they are not going to like this appearance this evening on MSNBC. But, I mean, what happened with Kevin McCarthy, right? I mean, that's a fairly ABC, I can be maybe the next Speaker of the House. I'm Kevin McCarthy. I'm going to stay in power. But what about members of your own family? And I ask that not just to get you to, be critical of members of your own family, but because I think they're representative of a lot of Republicans in the country who don't hold elected office and are in thrall to Donald Trump and are voting against Liz Cheney, who otherwise is everything you could want from a conservative Republican.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to talk about. So first off, I've come to believe over the last year that people, more than even fearing death, we're such a tribalistic people that they fear being kicked out of their tribe. And so you accept anything because now republicanism or conservatism or Trumpism becomes your identity. And so you're going to stay. Now, my family, look, they're my dad's cousins. I'm going to say this as a Christian myself, the pastors, many pastors in this country are failing their congregation, not even just by, pushing kind of Trumpism from the pulpit, but even refusing to talk about how bad it is, how corrosive it is. And you have people today that literally, I think in their heart, they may not say it, but they equate Donald Trump with the person of Jesus Christ. And to them, if you even come out against this amazing man, Donald Trump, which, I mean, obviously quite flawed, you are coming out against Jesus, against their Christian values. And when you go after their religion, that violates the depth of who they are. And I've been kicked out of my tribe, and that's okay.
Boo-hoo. But I'll say this. He made a couple good points in there. I mean, there are people who become obsessed with politicians. Again, this is not exclusive to Trump. And there are pastors who basically promoted a lot of this stuff. A lot of them, I'm sure they meant well. But, I mean, they were giving all these prophecies about Trump and how he was going to be reelected and yada, yada, yada. And it got a little silly. And there is some truth to the idea that some do view Trump as an almost godlike figure. I don't think anybody actually views him as God. I mean, I've seen these stupid memes on social media several times. I'm sure we've all seen it. And it is something that does exist. But here's the problem. Kinzinger knows that these people who are this religious about Trump, they represent a very thin sliver of the overall conservative movement. You are not by any means talking about all or even most conservatives. Most people on the right, whether they love Trump or are, ambivalent about him or agnostic about him, they a lot of them view him as an effective leader. They thought he was a good president, but he was flawed, and a lot of people acknowledge his flaws. Now, if you just look at what happened when Trump endorsed Dr. Oz for Senate in Pennsylvania, and if you see how the conservative base reacted to that, you'll understand that they don't view this man as God. Like, they took issue with that, the sharp criticism. They still support him, but they don't worship him. And you do have these aspects on both sides with a lot of different politicians, but it was very dishonest of Kinzinger. The whole segment was pretty dishonest because they are basically engaging in nut-picking. And nut-picking is a practice that journalists usually use on the right and the left. And what you'll do is you'll pick out a few people on the other side who are crazy, who are objectively nuts in what they say or do, and make it sound like they somehow represent the entire movement. And that's what they were doing here. Yes, there are people like that, but the notion that this is common is absurd. It's kind of like how they tried to use QAnon, remember? They're actually still trying to use QAnon a little bit. But QAnon represented a very small percentage of Republicans and conservatives. Most people didn't buy into QAnon. But what did the left-wing media do? They made it sound like that it was like this huge movement on the right that so many were buying into, when that wasn't the case. It was a lie. It was very dishonest. But here's the other thing. Like I said, this doesn't just happen on the right. This also happens on the left. But here's the thing, and actually, even before I get into that, I'm going to talk about another aspect of this, because on the left, well, actually, anti-Trumpers in general, because there are anti-Trumpers on the right, these people far outnumber the small number of people who view Trump as a Jesus Christ-like figure. These people, and I'm talking specifically about people who hate Trump, like who just detest him the way that Christians hate Satan. I'm not talking about people who just don't like him. I tweeted about this a few days ago, and I got some very interesting answers, but I can understand why some people might not like Trump. He does things that are unlikable. He's a flawed human being. I understand people who may not like his policy. If you're a Democrat on the left, you're not going to like a lot of his policies. So I get that, even though I don't agree with it. I understand that. What I don't understand is the hatred, where they think this man is basically Satan incarnate. I mean, if you go on Twitter, you can even do a search on Trump and Satan, and you'll see a lot of blue check marks, like myself, since I'm a blue check mark now. But I digress. You'll see people comparing him to Satan, and I actually put that in my article. I put some of the tweets in there. And they think this man is just the human, or the personification of evil, not just a guy who they don't like. So to me, they are almost religious in their hatred of Trump. I mean, it got so bad. Like, I remember I wrote an article about this. This was in 2017. Dana Milbank from the Washington Post, who you can always count on to write some really stupid crap. He wrote an article about how President Trump's presidency was giving him health issues. Not because of policy, but just because he just didn't like Trump. And his blood pressure would be raised, and somehow that's Trump's fault. Even on Twitter, remember when President Trump's brother passed away in 2020? You had people on Twitter making a hashtag wrong Trump, making that trend, implying that, it should have been President Trump who died. Like, come on now. Like, you can't fault a whole movement for having some people who worship Trump when you're basically doing the opposite version of that. I mean, somebody else tweeted a while ago, they said, Trump devotion syndrome is just as bad as Trump derangement syndrome. They're both bad. You should never elevate a human being to that level. I don't care if he's the president of the United States. He ain't God. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. But it's also worth noting that Trump is not the only president to be viewed in this messianic light. Remember President Barack Obama? Remember that guy? You're going to tell me that people on the left didn't worship him? Like, some of you might remember what I'm about to play right now, but they were so zealous about Barack Obama that there was a controversy over a school teacher who changed the words of a hymn called Jesus Loves Little Children, changed it up to basically be a pro-Obama hymn, and had kids sing it. You want to see? I know you do. Here it comes.
Okay, now everybody, let's sing it together on the count of three.
All right. Yeah. I like that.
1, 2, 3.
Barack Hussein Obama. He said all must lend a hand to make this country strong again. Barack Hussein Obama. He said because he's here today, equal work means equal pay. Barack Hussein Obama. He said everyone must take a chance to make sure everyone gets a chance. Barack Hussein Obama.
Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. I might make that my new jam. But I remember when that happened, people were freaking out. I'm like, we are all equal in his sight? I mean, you say that about God. You don't say that about a politician. Obama fever was so crazy. A friend of mine that I used to work with, he told me he asked his aunt, and this guy wasn't really an Obama fan. He was more of a libertarian type. But he asked his aunt, what would you do if Obama came out and said that he worshiped the devil? Would you still vote for him? And she said yes. I mean, and these are Christian people. So you can't tell me that this Trump cult thing is something exclusive. I mean, John F. Kennedy, there was a cult around him too. This is what happens when you have a president or a politician who is charismatic. Barack Obama is a very charismatic person. President Trump, in his own way, he's very charismatic as well. These people can elicit emotions. And should we be swayed by emotion? No, but we are. It's a human thing. I don't care who you think you are. You do make decisions based on emotion. You are moved by emotion to a certain extent. So the idea that these small group of people who do these memes where they have a halo around his head and put wings on him and all that stupid crap, that they represent the rest of the movement, it's false. And the thing is, people saying this know it's false. They know they're wrong. They know they're lying. But again, this appeals to their audience. It's not convincing anybody. it's basically preaching to the choir. I mean, the people that they're convincing already want to believe it in the first place. That's not convincing people who are more in the middle, who are more moderate or independent or what have you. It's just ridiculous. And I wish that we could be a little bit more honest about these things. And I don't know. We're going to see a lot more of this now because of Liz Cheney and what happened with her, which everybody expected. But, I mean, the Democrats have this newfound love for Liz Cheney, and it's only based on the fact that she went up against the orange man. What is bad? And that's it. No other reason. I mean, the policies that she supports, they hate. She's a neocon. She's into that warmonger camp. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, they're the party of Bush and Cheney now. Democrats are. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that. It was kind of entertaining to me, so I figured I'd give it a little bit of a discussion. But let me know what you guys think. And again, make sure you subscribe. I'll holler at you later.